Hi and welcome to another Tabitha's Glass Emporium YouTube video. Today we're looking at this, which is kind of probably one of my final ones at the moment in the series of fish related projects. Probably the last one I'm going to do in this studio here. I made this, which is making this the coral underneath and then tack fusing these fishes on and then draping it over a mould to make this incredibly beautiful coral piece. So today I'm going to show you how to make this. The first thing you need to do is cut some strips. Now I've chosen white glass because I then want to put some coloured powder on as a second firing. I've chosen dense white because I happen to have some around. I may regret it. Dense white can be a trickier glass and it can devitrify more than other glasses, so you may just want to go with opal white or another colour entirely and just do one lot. Cutting strips. I freehand scored this. Now, when you're cutting strips, it's better to go every second one to break and then break in between. If you try to break each one and they're small, they're less likely to want to break. That has, but it's sort of chipped off at the end. Whereas if you go every second one and break, you're going to get better breaks. So that's my tip about kind of cutting strips and breaking them. The thing to help stop vitrification with dense white is to make sure your glass is clean. I like using these little trays. I put all the glass in it and then spray a good amount of glass cleaner and then I'll clean each piece. But I'll kind of move it around and just make sure everything is covered in glass cleaner before I clean each strip. So now I've cleaned the glass, I've taken some of the longer pieces and created this star shape. I'm going to need to make sure there's enough glass in the middle so it all fuses together. And then I'm slowly going to work out, got to be careful, I don't want it to look like a snowflake because there's always that as a possibility, but I'm going to slowly work out putting rays of glass out from this to create the coral pattern. So you can see I've really built it up. I'm making sure that there's lots of pieces coming out at kind of a sort of 45-degree angle, and I really want as much kind of coverage as possible. Now I'm going to put a 2-stack piece in the middle just to make sure it all comes together in the middle. And literally I've got some small pieces and I'm going to just go around and make sure I'm filling in all the little gaps with these sort of thin matchstick pieces to really make sure that there's a kind of, I want a very good sturdy base of glass. I want a good area to be able to put kind of my fish marini on. So I really am going to fill this up as much as I can with little bits, but you know, just I don't want it all merging together in one big blob, but adding lots and lots of little pieces to the construction. So here this piece is out of the kiln. Now I did say before I fused it together, clean it well because dense white will devitrify. And wow, look at the devit on this. Look at that here. All over here. I mean, it's rough there. It's like got lumps on it. I mean, dense white really doesn't like to do this. So I'm just going to advise you, do not use dense white. Don't use it. Don't use it. It's a great glass if you want to have a nice reaction, but otherwise stay well clear of it, to be honest. I only used it because I had a piece there handy. I'm going to keep using it, but hopefully you won't use dense white and use another colour and you won't have quite such a devit problem. I could sandblast this now, but I'm now actually going to go over with another layer of glass, so I'm hoping that that will sort it out and make it less horrible, for want of a better word. So we'll go ahead and put some nice glass down on top of this now. So here this is. Now, guys, I flipped it. The underside is less got less vitrification on it, but plus the powders will sit better on here. And I put some cranberry pink powder on the ends, and then I reclaimed what was lost because cranberry pink is so expensive, but I wanted to use a touch of it. And as you can see, I've drawn around the edge. Now I'm going to put a layer of powders on the bottom, which will stick to the underside when it's fired. So I am going to use a little bit more cranberry pink, but just sparsely around the edge. It's a great intense colour, cranberry pink. And I really like the way, kind of the colour you get. I don't mind if some of the dense white shows through. I'm just hoping to cover up the devitrification. If I had fired it the other way around, this powder would have slid off the kind of convexed side, and you still would have had white and also the sort of devitrified glass poking through. Whereas this way, flipping it over, I've got the flat side of glass to lay the powders on, and then the round side will sit into these powders. And yes, I'm going to lose a little bit between the voids, but it shouldn't be too bad. So I put a little bit of sunset coral down, and now I'm going to put some other pinky colours down and sort of fill in this area so I get some nice sort of pink coral effect. So now I've laid some powders down, I'm going to put this on top. Now guys, I'm supremely aware that I'm going to lose most of these powders in the voids, but that can't be helped. And I've managed not to line this up at all well, so I'm going to have to lift it back up. And I think I've spun it. There we go. And that's the way around. Make sure it's all fitting in the area. So then after that, I want to put some other colours down. I've got some on top, just petal pink. And this will go on a tack fuse. Got some petal pink here. I'm going to do some neo lavender. I'm slightly trying to aim at the branches rather than the voids. And then I've got some salmon pink just to add a bit around. And then finally I just want to put a bit of fuchsia. These are all quite expensive glass, so don't want to use too much. Just putting some here and there. Just so there's a low light really. Put that back in. And then finally what I want to do is I've got some clear irid frit, and I'm going to add that into various areas between. I want to make sure there's enough in here that it's going to join together. And then, as I said, this will go on a tack fuse. I'm going to make sure it's a slightly hotter tack fuse to really try and get all this to melt together and be kind of secure. So I'm going to fill this all in, and then it will go on a nice tack fuse. So here it is, ready to go in the kiln, and we'll see how it is when it comes out. So here it is out of the kiln. I really love how it's turned out. It's got this beautiful kind of mottled feeling on the back, which is sort of quite subtle. And this, in the end, will be the inside of the draped vessel. And then on the other side, you get this amazing rainbow from the irid and this really organic feeling from where the powders are, and particularly in the middle, how the kind of powders are shrunk because of the heat. I really love. So I'm going to put it now down on a couple of bits of wood so I can pick it up easily. And I'm going to start decorating it with my tropical sea fish. Now you've got to remember that it's not this side up and this side down, but we're working from the middle in. So this will be the top of the vessel and this will be the bottom. So they have to be the right way up for this being the top of the vessel. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these on. Now I'm just going to show you, sometimes our fish, if they're cut on the tassel, we try and make sure we take these off before we send them to you. But if you get one with a snag on it like this one, I don't know whether you can see it properly. There you go, you can see it. Just cut it off with some wheel mosaic cutters and it's fine. It will melt down fine anyway, but just cutting it off with some wheel mosaic cutters is also a good way. If it just happens to have that snag, we do try and take them off before we send them. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on. Now, I quite like with fishes, I think fishes swim in shoals. So I'm going to kind of bunch some of the different types together in groups, and then others might be on their own. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate this. The only thing to think about is this will be right at the bottom of the lamp, so I'm not going to probably put any below about this area where it's got this, the kind of just the powder bits on it. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate this all with the fish. So here it is, all ready to go in the kiln. So you see, I've managed to sort of try and group things together in kind of collections so they feel like shoals. You know, under the water, depending on where the currents are, fish tend to swim into the current, and so they tend to all be facing the same direction unless they're kind of away from the current. So I've kind of gone with that theme and that idea and put them together in groupings. So this is going to have an incredibly long anneal. It's already, you know, had 2 firings. It's already got kind of lots of layers going on. And when we drape it, it will be even longer. So it might not be for everyone, this kind of project, when you have to really go long and slow, but give it a go if you feel like it. So here it is out of the kiln, nicely tack fused. I'm loving how it has looked. I'm really pleased how it's come out and keeping the texture of the fish. I also made a couple of others, guys. I have got, I've got, and apologies ladies if I say your names wrong, I've got Glenda Kronke's AAE tutorial on powders, and I've also got Cristina Grumezescu's The Gap. I've got both of them. They're both great tutorials that show you how to make really beautiful organic things out of powder, and I've just managed to break a bit of this one off. So this is these were made with these techniques. So this one and this one, because I wanted to try it with those, but I can't show you how to make these because these are other people's tutorials. So if you want to make something like that, look up those 2 people. The links to their tutorials will be below, the one to AAE and the one to Christina's Gap PDF. So, and you can make things like this instead. Now, I want to now drape these into a kind of organic mould. Now, to do that, I've cut a piece of 1mm fibre paper to go under, and now I need to think of what I'm going to drape them over. Now, things you can drape stuff over are a flower pot like this. I've got a kind of metal thing I use for other things which I could drape over. You can use cocktail shakers, stainless steel cocktail shakers, but you want to kind of think of what sort of shape you want. The other thing to think about is that I cannot drape this with this. This is much heavier. It's got a lot more glass in it, and if to get this to go down, I need to go very, very low and slow. So I will ramp it very slowly. I'll take it up very slowly heat-wise, and I'll have to anneal the hell out of it at the end. But because of the thin pieces here and the weight at the end, if I don't take it very slowly and I go too hot too fast, this will stretch and it's going to distort. So I want to take it really slowly. I want it to sort of slowly bend down in an organic form, and then I'll stop it. These are much lighter, and so we'll need more heat in them to drape. There's much less glass there, much less glass at the ends. The glass is kind of spread out evenly out through the piece. And this piece is probably more glass in the middle than at the edges. Those 2 can probably go in together. And let's say this one I think I'm probably going to do on a cocktail shaker. Let's make sure you get it the right way up. I want the fish on the outside, so I'm going to go like that way up. And so that will drape over there. Whereas this piece, I think I'm going to go on a flower pot like this and get a kind of nice organic shape around this flower pot. The other thing to take into consideration is, have I got enough depth? So because if I do that, this might hit the ground, you can always think about putting your flower pot, if you've got the room in your kiln, up on a bit of a stilt, so that even if it drapes down, it's not going to hit the kiln floor. It will just drape off the edge of the vessel. You can put it on a post or anything. So it's thinking of, you know, the weight of the glass and the firing schedule you want. So I think I'm going to need to go hotter for these than I will need to go for this one. So right now I'm going to drape this one. I think I'm going to drape it over this metal former here. I don't want it as narrow as the cocktail ones. I want a bit more kind of width on it. So it's then matching it up, getting it in the centre of the mould, sort of having a look underneath, going, yeah, that's pretty much centred, and then it will go in the kiln. Now, My kiln, I have quite a kiln with quite a lot of height, so even on this, I'm still going to be a little away from the elements, but I'm still going to heat this up very slowly. I'm going to do 50 degrees an hour, guys. That's 50 degrees centigrade an hour. And then at top temperature in 12 hours time, I will check it out, make sure that, you know, it's draping nicely as I want it. Have a, you know, open your kilns, use glasses, open your kilns and have a look. I don't know whether it's still filming because my phone is ringing. So here they are out of the kiln. I always kind of find it interesting with draping. You never quite know how anything's going to turn out. You never know which sort of way the drape will fold. And I love them. I'm glad I went with a slightly shallower, thicker drape with this one. I think it's worked out really well. And then these other ones at the back. I kind of love them. I love the organic feel of this one. You know, it's between some of the folds, we've lost a few fish, but you just, as you don't know where it's going to drape, that will happen. But it's like the little fish are peeking out through that as well, which I like. And I love this one at the back that you can kind of see some of the fish through the holes both sides, which is a sort of nice touch as well. I mean, these are great techniques. If you want to buy either of them, they're really good techniques to get and have a look at. They're such fun. The links to those are both at the bottom. And then, you know, if you don't feel that you can afford a technique and want to try making a piece of coral, this is also a lovely way to do it with this one. So they're both kind of really good ideas. We are now fantastically also have our Sea Life in 96 COE. So for all you 96 users out there, we have quite a decent range of 96 Marini, including a Sea Life range, a Tropical Seas range. So please check them out, and they're really good value. So have a look at those. I hope you've enjoyed this. I can't wait to see what you all do with this idea. And if you've liked this video, please subscribe.